So Fred Morales, Durftune, is currently raffling off a car of an acquaintance of mine, somebody that I had eyes on for quite a bit of time. He's one of those dudes that kind of goes through cars a lot, but you know every car he builds is pretty good, pretty interesting, does good things. He has within the past year or so finished a GSR Integra. This got the Type R front from the Japanese Type R front on it and whatnot. And it's one of those cars that's pretty neat and it's kind of cool to talk about because it's got some goodies on there, just some things that I want to mention again. And I'm gonna beat the shit out of this topic. I'm gonna keep bringing it up every time, is because the K20 doesn't get any fucking love and respect. So it's a full K20, and it makes 700 wheel horsepower. Now, the most impressive thing about this, feat is it makes 700 wheel horsepower on stock rods. Now, he's got 11.5 compression pistons in there, but as far as the bottom end goes, that's it. It's just the 11.5 compression pistons. So, recently I sold a long block to somebody. It's it's a VTEC Killer forged pistons and rods at 11.5 compression. The plan, as for me, when I had it, was going to do it. I was going to boost, and the plan of the guy buying it is eventually boost. So the whole thing is one of the major reasons I want to talk about this again is because one, he's also using a manifold off of from LG Motoring. This is one of the manifolds, the turbo manifolds that I wanted to offer you guys, right? So there's that, and also the fact is that now recently with me being able to get these Reman K20 Type S cranks, the K20 is definitely on the block for build. You guys know that I regularly run through, collect K20 E3s, and after a while I get log jammed and it's hard for me to sell them. So when I get about 3 of them, or I think this kind of goes for everything right now. When I tend to get to the 3 of any block, I stop buying them, for space reasons, right? But now that I know that I can always get this crank, or I feel pretty confident that I can get this crank on a pretty regular basis, then we can not only, I'm not just trying to sell base model rods on the K20 with upgraded compression. Now we can actually go with a full-on K20 block, whether you want forged pistons, or forged rods or stock rods. And I think right now I only have 2 extra sets of stock rods. So that'll be a thing that I have to keep my eyes out for again, stock rods or whatnot. But I only have 2 extra sets, and I don't know where the fucking bolts are. Now, I remember when I got those, that was one of my concerns, like, hey, these don't have the bolts, and the guy sent me the bolts, but I have fuck tons of stuff, and the bolts are really small, so I lost track of them. I don't know where they're at. So I guess right now, that if I were to go to sell those stock rods, I would have to try and talk you into getting ARP rod bolts or whatnot. So there's that. But at this point, guys, the K24 and the K20 is just like the F20 and F22C out of the S2K. Like, you routinely see high 600, 700 horsepower numbers out of the S2000 on stock block, and it's just mainly for the stock block because it's they're FRM. And it's just, why spend all the extra money to sleeve your block or go with, the dry inserts if you could just run that kind of power on the stock block. So the K20 is definitely a thing. Again, I want to mention that I am going to be doing a K20 when I go to start. Whenever I go to build my Turbo K, it's going to be a K20. Again, for ground clearance and just the ready availability of the blocks. Now, if you want to get a K20 for me, it's most likely going to be a K20 just like if you buy a K24 for me, it's a base model block as well. But I've already talked about it enough times that the differences are minuscule. Like, the difference between a base model block and the actual VTEC block is tiny. So it's the same shit, you're just minus a couple accessories. The important thing is the guts, the internals, what you can stuff in these things. If you can put forged pistons and rods in it, then it doesn't really matter what the stamp on the outside says. So guys, K20, they're out there, they're available. Even if you don't go through me to use these, more people are hopping on them. You're starting to see more numbers on them recently. Like, I just shared another one from Humble the other day that was in the low 10s. It was a stock K20 making high 600s, I think. And they made a 10-2 pass on it. So guys, the K24 is great. I'm not saying anything bad about them. I love the K24 as well, but the K20 is consistently overlooked when there's no good reason to do so. Maybe if you're trying to build a dedicated NA race car and you want to get any extra little bump you can, then yeah, I can see favoring the K24 every time for that extra torque or whatnot. But if you're building a high horsepower car, and it doesn't really matter which way you go, but the one thing that does come into play that that does make a big difference when you consider that is, again, the height, the difference in the length of the block. So if you get a K24, you got to either worry about hood not closing or ground clearance. If you get a K20, that's not so much an issue. All right, guys, so a quick video. Just wanted to shout out again some more K20 love, and also remind you guys again that I do have access to K20 Type S cranks. The one I ordered the other day just came in, and I may tweak my prices a little bit on the K20 again because the crank is going to cost me a bit more than usual. So I might have to increase my core fee, but I'm not 100% sure. Right now, as it stands, the price has not gone up, guys, but it might. Same thing with, like I mentioned you guys with the cams. Before, I was able to sell you the cams a lower price, $100. Now the cam price has been bumped up to 50s, bumped up by an extra $50. So if you're thinking about buying and you're on the fence and you got money, you might want to lock it in while the prices are low, because they creep up. Maybe not dramatically, most times not dramatically, but they do creep up. So, all right, guys, social media links are in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and peace.